And if you're on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, or Stitcher, like I already said, and Spreaker, can't leave out the Spreaker folks, but like I said, moving right in, this is part 2. If you're on YouTube, hello. This is one topic. This is the first time I think we've done one topic, but it's a part 1, part 2, just because we've gone so long. We might have done it in the past. I don't remember doing it, so I'm just going to say this is the first time we've ever done it. But we were in the last part, we were talking mostly about these 2-loss teams, and we focused a lot on Ohio State, Notre Dame. I think they're at the bottom. They're like they need a lot of shit to go right just to get in. A team I want to look at and I'll ask you, do you want to look at the ACC or the Big 12 first?
Let's take a look at the ACC.
Okay. And the thing with this is the only 2-loss team they could get is Clemson. And the thing is, depending, and this is how everything plays out, could you see a Clemson team go into the Miami game, the ACC title game against Miami at 1 loss, lose to Miami, be a 2-loss team and still get in?
No, not if we see Wisconsin continue on the run that they're on right now.
So if they win the Big Ten, then game over.
If Wisconsin wins the Big Ten, Wisconsin is in, and Clemson is out. Right now, Clemson to me has been such an underwhelming number 4. I almost said number 4 seed, but number 4 ranked team right now,
and they probably have the
playoff
worst
team.
They probably have the worst loss out of anybody on the resume, and they still get into the top 4.
Well, exactly, but I think that it is understandable, to a point, but at the same time, like I said, they're underwhelming. They're an underwhelming team to me this year. They don't have the big play ability that they had under
Deshaun
Watson and everything that team brought with Wayne Gallman and Mike Williams. And certainly when you look to the defensive side of things, it was, just as good. But Clemson, right? I don't think that they could go into Miami, lose, and stay. I just couldn't see it.
Because I'm kind of playing situations in my head. Like I said in the first part, is if Wisconsin, Miami, and Alabama win out, that's 3 spots locked up. And that means we're fighting for the 4th one. If Oklahoma wins out, I'm sorry, Clemson, you're left at home. You are left at home because what we would have is a 2-loss Georgia team, 3-loss Auburn team. They'd be dead in the water. Ohio State and Notre Dame wouldn't be able to get in, and then it would either be Clemson or Georgia, or Oklahoma, and Oklahoma with 1 loss would be the 4th team. So if Oklahoma, Miami, Alabama, and Wisconsin all win out, that's your playoff. That's your playoff, I think, moving forward. However, if, let's say, we get a Ohio State not really an Ohio State, I'm looking more towards the SEC. If we get chaos in the SEC, what will be very interesting is if Miami wins, they're in. Then if, let's say, Auburn wins out, because we use that scenario, I think they could be in. Wisconsin wins out, they're in. So Miami, Wisconsin, and then it's like Oklahoma. But if Auburn beats Alabama, are you going with a 2-loss Auburn or Clemson, or
it's this simple.
1-loss Alabama?
It's this simple. If Auburn wins out, Auburn is in.
They're in.
Auburn is in. But so is Alabama.
Because they would only have 1 loss.
So is Alabama. Yeah. So is Alabama. So it could be.
So if Auburn wins,
I would just kick myself.
Because you'd go streaking.
I would just kick myself. It could be. Could. Again. We don't want people to be, nutcases on here and be, you said that. Scenarios, people, scenarios. So, Alabama could be. Alabama, Miami, Oklahoma, Auburn. Could. If Auburn were to win out and everything went their way. But I just don't think that's going to happen. I'll be honest with you. Right now, I'm pretty confident with Alabama, Miami, and Oklahoma as the top 3 teams.
Yeah. And what Clemson needs, because I'm going back to them, this is what I think they need to get into the playoff. If they lose to Miami, of course, win the ACC tournament, you're fucking in. the basketball tournament, win the championship game. You're in the playoff. I'm already thinking basketball. It's already on the mind. But what they need is they would need Wisconsin to lose against Ohio State because, I mean, then they could say, well, you know what, they could bank on hopefully our resume is better. The committee has always voted us better. Hopefully bank that they're better. And then they would need to hope that either TCU or Oklahoma State beats Oklahoma because then they can go into the fact of hopefully between the three that the committee somehow gets confused between Oklahoma and Ohio State and puts them in. That also means that it also muddies up the water for a Wisconsin because let's put it this way. If a Ohio State beats them, even with one loss, can't Wisconsin get in? Do you think they could get in with one loss? Or if Wisconsin loses to Ohio State, it's like, sorry, you're the Penn State of this year. Should have won the conference title.
But at the same time, Penn State last year, didn't they not have 2 losses?
They did.
They had 2 losses.
And that's going to be the interesting thing. If Wisconsin only has 1.
Wisconsin could get away with it if they only have 1 loss at the end, when everything's said and done. They could get away with it. But then that goes back to schedule and everything like that. However, I think it was a big win. I know it was over. I know I don't want to say it like this, but I know it was over number 20 Iowa. It's not like it was number 2, Penn State at the time when Ohio State beat them. But for a team that had just come off of whooping the ass of Ohio State a week before, they played Iowa really tough and they beat them pretty badly. So I think that's a huge win for Wisconsin. If they beat Michigan and if they beat Minnesota, and then they go on to play in they would go on to play in the Big Ten championship game, and then win it. Even if you lose it and you play a close game, I think Wisconsin could be in.
The thing in my mind that needs to happen because at the beginning I asked you, will a two-loss team get in? And as we're talking about this, I'll be honest, at the beginning of the segment, I was in my mind going, yes, a 2-loss team could. But now looking at it, I'm trying to find a way to get a 2-loss team in. And I think I found a way. In order for a 2-loss team to get in, and I wish I had a pen and paper in front of me because I could work this out a little bit better. It's like doing math. But what I think would need to happen is the SEC scenario, Auburn would have to win out because then you don't have an undefeated team in the SEC. Georgia has 2 losses. You're basically eliminating Georgia from the playoff. What would also need to happen is I want to say Oklahoma would have to lose in their title game. So whether that, let's just say it's Oklahoma State because they're right now the highest in the AP rankings as we're recording this. Then that muddies up the water for a 2-loss Big 12 team. So you have 2-loss Auburn, 2-loss Big 12 team. The Big 10, it could go either way. I think that if Ohio State wins, it becomes a question of, well, how much does the conference title mean? Because if Ohio State wins, but they award a playoff spot to Wisconsin, then on the SEC side, they could say, well, move over Auburn. We're going to let Alabama go in because conference championships don't mean anything. I feel like you can't let one in, and you can't let Auburn say you're in because of the conference championship, but then go to Ohio State and say, no, it means nothing because Wisconsin has 1 loss. That's the only thing that gets muddied up there. And then with the ACC, I think Clemson, honestly, I think Clemson is the team, even though they sit AP top 4 right now, they are the team that will be absolutely dead in the water if they have 2 losses.
Oh, I agree with you. I don't think they're
because their resume doesn't stand up.
They're the weakest top 4. They're the weakest top 4 easily. When you put Alabama, Miami, Oklahoma, all those 3 in front of them, so much better. So much better. I go back to what Kirk Herbstreit said.
Just get the 4 best.
Exactly. The 4 best teams. They'd be doing a disservice for college football if they had Clemson in there because Clemson is not one of the best teams in college football this year.
No,
they're not.
They're not. And I think that the only three 2-loss teams I think we could see in the playoff with all the scenarios: Auburn, Oklahoma State, or Oklahoma. And the reason why I say that is if Auburn wins out and they're a 2-loss team, that conference championship, I'm going to harp on that, conference championship. The thing with the Big 12, let's say Oklahoma plays Oklahoma State. If Oklahoma State beats Oklahoma, Oklahoma has 2 losses, but Oklahoma State has that conference championship. So really, I think it'd become between Alabama and Auburn and Oklahoma State at that point. I think those are really the only 2 chances that a 2-loss team has just because of what's out there. Because, I mean, if I'm a 2-loss team, I am rooting for Alabama to win out, Miami to win out, and then hopefully Ohio State knocks off Wisconsin. Maybe Auburn. Maybe I'm rooting for Auburn, but I'm definitely rooting for Miami because if Clemson beats Miami, that is the one conference championship game to where if I'm a 2-loss team and Clemson beats Miami and Miami ends with 1 loss, I'm sitting there going, great, both of them are in. Both of them are in. Because I don't think a loss to Clemson will be the sole thing to knock Miami out of the playoffs. I could be surprised.
I was just gonna mention that Miami, even if they lose to Clemson in 2 weeks, it doesn't hurt them that much
because it's their only loss.
Exactly, it's their only loss, and it would be to if Clemson, is still sitting at number 4 or around, the top 7, be to a quality opponent in terms of their ranking. So I don't think it would hurt Miami much at all. So I don't think that really matters. I'll tell you, and I know that I'm not trying to make some bold prediction because it's barely bold. Alabama, Miami, and Oklahoma, they're playoff bound teams. Right now in my mind, I'm looking for the 4th. I have not found the 4th team. Alabama, I think, is locked in. Miami, I think, is going to be locked in. I think they're pretty good where they are right now. Oklahoma, same thing. Clemson, no. They are not. I really am thinking that we're going to see most likely Wisconsin or we're going to see Georgia in that number 4 spot.
Wisconsin's the team that needs to win. They're the team that needs to win the conference title. Out of every single team, they're the one that needs to, because the whole thing and the whole kind of soapbox that I've been getting on is hashtag new fake ID. They're the new fake ID of college football, to where you're a playoff team, but who have you played? Who have you played? Like, your first ranked opponent's going to be who you play in the Big Ten title game. And I feel like
they can say Iowa.
But
look at how Iowa's played this year. When they played Penn State, they played Penn State very, very, very tough. When they played Ohio State, they knocked them off real quick. And then they play Wisconsin, and Wisconsin takes care of business in a big way. So who you play to say? And I know that people will be saying, "All right, cool, you beat Iowa."
No,
for you.
I'm not.
But
I'm not saying it exactly like that.
No, but in a way, such as
I'm saying it like this: you're trying to prove you're not the new fake ID, and you're using the former fake ID. Like, this is a team that just turned 21, and you're going to use them as, hey, we beat them. It's like, get out of here. They used to be the fake ID.
Well, they're like talking to each other, like, man, I remember when I had to use that fake ID, get in the bar. Yeah, me too. You come up with those stories. So it's not nothing wrong with that.
Wisconsin needs to win. I think that right now, and I could be wrong, and I'm probably going to be wrong, but I think as of right now, as long as unless anything catastrophically happens, I think if Alabama and Miami end with 1 loss, they're in. So even if Alabama ends with a loss, they don't get in the conference title game, I think they're in. I think Miami's in if they don't beat Clemson. Here's the thing I want to ask you, kind of to wrap all of this up. Kind of to get off the 2-loss thing, Could this be the first year for the committee that, let's say Auburn wins out, let's say Clemson beats Miami, let's say Oklahoma State beats Oklahoma, and let's say Ohio State beats Wisconsin. Could this be the first year the committee goes, yeah, Oklahoma State, I know you beat Oklahoma. It was a fluke. Oklahoma's looked like the better team. They're number 4. Yeah, Auburn, you won the SEC. You beat Georgia twice. You beat Alabama. Alabama's in. Yeah, Ohio State, you beat Wisconsin, but Wisconsin only has that one loss. They're in. And yeah, Clemson, I know you beat Miami, but Miami's looked like the better team. They're in. Could we even get that where not a single conference champion gets in?
No, I think out of all those, the one that would get in would be Auburn. Just because of the way, because if they were able to beat,
they would beat
if they were
Georgia
able to
twice,
if they were able to beat Georgia twice and Alabama at all, I think that speaks volumes, and that you would have to put Auburn in because they would then clearly be one of the best teams, if not the best team, because you knocked off the 2 best teams, quote unquote, is for this season, what has looked like the best teams this year, Alabama and Georgia, just with both of them being undefeated for so long, and then Georgia just losing last week to Auburn. And I think that Auburn would, if you given your scenario that you just threw out there, Auburn would be the team that would be a for sure lock after all of that they would say, hey, it doesn't matter. You beat Georgia twice and Alabama once. We're not going to snub you. You got to be in.
Let me ask you this then before we go on to our picks. Let's say that same scenario goes down. So Ohio State beats Wisconsin, only loss for Wisconsin. Auburn beats Alabama, beats Georgia. Oklahoma State plays Oklahoma. Both of them end with 2 losses because the Cowboys would get the victory. And Clemson beats Miami. What's your playoff look like? If that's the final kibosh, what's your 4 look like?
It would probably be Alabama 1, Auburn 2.
You can change it.
Yeah, I would say Alabama 1, Miami 2, Auburn 3, Wisconsin 4.
Wow. You know who would get pissed off in that scenario? The one fan base that would get pissed off in that scenario? Do you want to take a guess or do you want me to tell you?
Hold on. Who would I leave out? Big 12.
ACC.
Clemson.
Because if Clemson beat Miami, they would riot. They would riot if a Wisconsin team that lost to Ohio State got in above them. Wouldn't disagree with it because it would be like, well, you know what? You did lose to Syracuse where Wisconsin did lose to Ohio State, which is a more of a quality loss. But Clemson would be stringing the violin that Penn State fans were stringing last year.
And again, that's with your scenarios.
Yeah, with my exact scenario.
That's with your exact scenarios that you just pointed out coming to life.
I would go a little bit different from you. I would say in this exact scenario, Clemson is the most tricky team. You want to know why they're the most tricky team? Because you beat Miami, and I feel like because they would beat Miami and because of everyone else that lost, I would want to leave them out, but I couldn't. I feel like they would be the default number 1, but they would be like a weak number 1. So that's what I would put there, like I guess you're number 1. Then at number 2, I would put Miami, only because if Miami wins that game, they're number 1, and it's like you lost to number 1. Then number 3, the true number 1, I would put Alabama, or the true 1B, 1A, 1B. Miami and Alabama, I think, could be number 1 seeds. So I would have Clemson because I'd have to, Miami, Alabama, and then Auburn. I would have a ACC-SEC matchup, and how I would go at it is exactly, there's a little method to my madness. Clemson-Auburn, rematch there. You have Miami and Alabama. could get an ACC national championship, could get an SEC one, or we could get a mix. Would that be the best thing for college football? Probably not. I think the best thing for college football would be to get 4 of the Power Fives in there, not anyone doubling. But I think we're set up for true chaos to end the season.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you before we end this segment, I will tell you who I think the top 4 should be right now.
Okay. I think we're the exact same.
Not in your scenario.
Yeah.
Not in your
just
your
right
scenario
now,
that you just
week
gave.
12.
Right now, week 12. I would say Alabama, Miami, Oklahoma, and Wisconsin. That's who I would say.
We're almost the exact same. And I know if you've already seen the top 10 video we put out every week, you've already seen this, but I'm the exact same. Alabama, Miami, Oklahoma, and I just got Georgia. Because Georgia, yeah, I know you lost Alabama, but the quality of opponent that Georgia has played is better than Wisconsin at this point. But I would have Wisconsin at 5. I'd have Wisconsin as my first out, Clemson as my second out. And I'm assuming you would have Georgia and Clemson as your first 2 out as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think probably followed by Auburn.
Brian's like, I gotta think about it a little
I gotta
bit.
remember what I said earlier before we came on.
This is where you guys come in. Let us know, what are you guys hoping for? What kind of chaos? What kind of scenarios? Who do you think is going to be in? Who do you think could still play their way in? This has probably been the most interesting. I think I say this every year, but this has probably been the most interesting.
I think I say this every year because every year it's interesting.
But I think this
year.
one's the most interesting because I think I'm using interesting a lot. I think it's intriguing that
new
we
word.
Pulled out the thesaurus for that one. But if I could stop stumbling, I think that this is the first year that we've had. We're not having this discussion last year of what 2-loss team is getting in. This year we can have that discussion. I think that was really pretty cool that we could do that. But you guys let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section.